So fun fact, you were one of the very first instructors at product school back in 2016.
Very proud to be that. SoundCloud became profitable after years. We have worked with a couple of vendors and partners who are trained on ethical data. So one of the things that we posted in SoundCloud is that SoundCloud stands for ethical use of AI. So at a minimum, a pod should have the trifecta, right? Which is product design and engineering.
This company got started and started growing really fast. I think it hit like over 150 million users by 2015 or something crazy like that.
So it is to that point where we understood now that creators are really excited to get their fans excited about their music. And how?
Hey, this is Carlos's AI voice clone. Carlos is the CEO of Product School and the host of the Product Podcast. He asked me to set the stage for today's guest before he takes over the interview. This is a special episode because it was recorded in our podcast studio in Silicon Valley. Ashok Bania is the SVP of product at SoundCloud, the original open platform that disrupted the music industry alongside Spotify and gave massive distribution to millions of artists, including superstars like Billie Eilish and Malone. SoundCloud is way more than just a hipster's version of Spotify. It's a free music app available on web and mobile that connects DJs and singers with over 150 million fans worldwide. After a period of strategic shifts, SoundCloud became profitable for the first time in 16 years. Ashok is at the helm of this transformation, overseeing product strategy, growth, and monetization. He has a proven track record of building successful consumer subscription products and marketplaces at Spotify, Lyft, Tumblr, and Headspace. In this episode, we'll explore how SoundCloud made a turnaround from near collapse to profitability, specific AI use cases that help fans discover better music and generate over 1,400 community-driven remixes, Ashok's counterintuitive approach to growth, including the strategic use of friction to enhance commitment, building mission-based teams aligned with solving core needs, not just chasing short-term wins, and much more. Let's dive in.
Ashok, welcome back to Product School.
Thank you for having me here.
This time as a podcast guest, we've been using you like crazy. So fun fact, you were one of the very first instructors at Product School back in 2016.
Very proud to be that. Yeah, I still remember. It's been almost, 9 years now?
Yeah, 9 years before product management was cool.
Yeah, I know. Thanks to you, it became cool now.
And you've been a speaker at our conference, ProductCon in San Francisco. You've contributed to the community in so many ways. So I hope we can have a deep conversation on product and growth, specifically around SoundCloud, which is your current company. And before that, so between Spotify and SoundCloud, I see that you worked at Lyft, Headspace, CNN, Tumblr.
Yes. Yeah, I've been moving a little bit. I think, we find product market fit. I also wanted to find my employability fit too. Sometimes it's really a great idea that you want to run after. Sometimes you don't agree with, the decisions we are taking moving forward. So I think it's in this day and age when there's so much mobility in career right now, it's kind of it's more normal than it used to be. But yeah, very exciting products. If you think about it, Lyft is very exciting. It's a, on-demand ride-sharing company. Headspace, a very complex topic, 0 to 1, right? Tumblr, transformation. SoundCloud, a transformation. So there's a theme to it.
Yeah, and I also see the theme around subscription, right?
Correct, yes.
And direct to consumer, which is something that I hope we can explore. SoundCloud, the company started in 2007.
Right.
I remember I was a user back in the day, and my recollection was kind of like a hipster version of Spotify. And I say this with love. Yeah. I would love for you to kind of expand on that and tell me what's the latest and greatest.
Yeah, no, thank you. If you ask people about SoundCloud, people always think about it as a very nostalgic product, which is true. I think, the way it started, it was an open platform, right? Even before YouTube came in, SoundCloud was the first place where people could just upload. That's what it means by open, right? There's no, you don't have to have a licensing. You don't have to, think about, worry about where you're getting your samples and things like that. And that during that time, you saw a lot of people, using SoundCloud to first test their market. When I say test their market, I mean test their music, whether people, the audience like it or not. I think that was our ethos how it started. And, along the way, I think there are other competition comes in, your market changes. Spotify came in, a streaming product on mobile. They were the first one who came on mobile, actually. And the management at the time perhaps would have gone after that market, streaming platform market, right? Because a lot of users were coming in to like listen to music on mobile, right? Who would not, right? So every other music platform should want to move to that direction. But I think alongside they forgot the main ethos that it was actually a creator product, right? And so fast forward of 2020 or so, some of us who joined, we knew that we actually self-selected. We left our jobs. I left Tumblr like after 6 months, not because 6 to 8 months, I forgot, not because that Tumblr was bad or something, because I was really, really like happy to join this transformation story. And so fast forward today, we have established the fact that a couple of things. One is that SoundCloud became profitable after 16 years, which is, in startup time, it's a lot, right? But also that, music tech, it's very hard to be profitable. So we are profitable. Number two, we have gone back to our ethos. Now we serve creators. We are a creator first product, and explain more about that, what it means. Number three, we are actually very proudly raising funds. So there are a couple of different ways of raising funds, right? For example, sometimes you raise funds when you run out of money, right? In our case, it's not that. We have money, but we want to grow. So we want to challenge the current challengers. And so that's where we are today.
Yeah, I was reading the fundraising story, and I think the last round was Series G or F.
I forgot the alphabet, but it's
letters.
a lot. Yeah.
If we think about kind of the growth trajectory, it feels like a roller coaster, right? Like 2007, this company got started and started growing really fast. I think it hit like over 150 million users by 2015 or something crazy like that. And then what happened? Like what made the company kind of change trajectory?
A lot of factors goes into it. If you look at 5 whys, maybe there was perception of entering into a market that was more lucrative, like let's say the market of Spotify, like a lot of subscribers coming in, right? It could be also the fact that some of the founders and the board members got, disinterested in the product. It could be the fact that a lot of the product management or product prioritization efficiencies went down, right? People didn't, and of course execution, right? But at the end of the day, what happened was SoundCloud became almost like a Me Too product, something like, a Spotify, but not Spotify, right? There were so many bugs. Search did not work properly. Like if you write Dave, so there are thousands of Daves in the world, right? So Dave Matthew Ben may not come up. Or forget that. Forget personalization. Even like Dave Matthews Ben won't come up, right? So I think these are, we can write an essay on why it failed. But I think there are a lot of factors goes into that. I think one big factor, though, I would say is that not being true to what customers want. Especially, remember long ago when I mentioned about why, ask the why before the what, right? When building a product, if you don't understand why someone needs a product and what's making them need it, right? Maybe a substitute doesn't exist. Maybe the current products aren't doing well. Whatever it is, I think that is the core of everything. And when we came in, we latched onto that, why people want, SoundCloud. What is missing in the world that could help these people?
It sounds like going back to the roots and truly focusing on building a great product that users love instead of just focusing too much on squeezing the lemon.
Correct. Exactly.
So let's talk about that. What are some of those core elements of the value proposition that make your product stand out from the competition?
So today, as an open platform, we allow artists or anyone, aspiring artists to upload, right? That's given. So that's like our core value prop. But to be honest, that is a manifestation of the value. But the real value prop is actually artists wants to get heard. Like a lot of time you might think about, these are upcoming artists, they might want to earn money right away. No. Right away, they are very, very worried about if their music is good or not, if they're good enough or not. They want to get validation from their family first. They want to get validation from friends first, right? So that part, if you can get some, I don't know what the equivalent of eyeballs is, ears for artists, that's one thing they wanted. So what we help artists is first we give them, streams so that they can actually, first of all, get discovered. Second is then convert those streams into real fans. When I say real fans, it means that these are not just repeat listeners, but they would wait for you to drop something. They will follow you. They will hit that, bell icon, which sends all notification from you to them, right? So the third thing, and it's not like a very sequential steps, but like there are three pillars. Third thing is get paid. So get paid becomes important for a small subset of artists who then suddenly becomes very serious about their art, right? They might want to, get rid of their day job and fully, immerse into music making. So these three are our value props right now that we work for.
So I want to double down on the relationship between the fan and the artist. That sounds really unique to me, especially in the age of scaling products. You have hundreds of millions of users. Like, how do you really find ways to create that magic in between two humans?
Yeah, it's very interesting. When we first were diving into this topic in user research, time and again we found that the people that they need validation from first is not like a listener. They're actually one validation from an artist. So the first few fans an artist expects are actually other artists. And why? Multiple reasons. One is that they get like an idea of like, yeah, my music is good. Number two, can I get feedback? Number three, can I collab, right? Collaboration is very important these days.
So this is relationship not only between a fan and an artist, it's also between two artists.
This is the starting point of the segment of artists who are new to making music, right? And then there's also a segment of artists who are they're very proficient in their art, so that their use cases are slightly different. So this is one thing that counterintuitive will learn that, we should connect, artist to artist when they're new. So we built some products around like, discovering artists, listen to them. The other interesting thing is that a lot of times product people like us, we get very, sometimes we have ego. Sometimes we think we know better, right? So we don't look at signals like YouTube, what people are speaking in YouTube and all. So actually I tell my product managers, you let UX research team do their traditional UX research, but you as a product manager should also like figure out, like read up on like, blogs. There's so many music blogs, right? So one of the YouTube videos we noticed is that an artist actually reverse engineered, how to get more fans by exactly following artist. When the artist followed back, they listened to the artist and said, hey, good job, like great music. In SoundCloud, you can actually comment on things, right? So people can see publicly what you're commenting. Then they start making friends with their fans because this artist makes similar music like you. So you then go and connect with those fans and say, hey guys, I make music like your artist. So do you want to listen to mine? And out of 100, there is one very specific fan who is a music nerd will say, yes, I want to listen to your music. So rinse and repeat. If you do more and more, find other artists, again, follow and stand their fans. That's what they have. So what we did was we productized this process.
So there are two things that come to mind. One is to your point around artists recommending artists. That's something that I know worked really well for Substack.
Correct. Yes.
And that was literally their main growth lever for a very long time. Because once you establish trust with someone that you follow, then if they say you should follow someone else, then it's easier to continue. So that was really powerful and relatively inexpensive, right? Because you are already in the platform.
Absolutely. And I think probably the same thing works for Instagram too. When you see two artists collab on a live, one's fans becomes fans for the other and vice versa, right?
Correct. And then like the anecdotal data around what's happening in the comments, I think is so powerful. Sometimes some of that can be missed in large data sets. Like, I think there's no replacement for that product leader going down and like doing their own mini research to validate or invalidate some of the things that another team has come up with.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned monetization, and I think there's also some unique elements to that compared to other streaming platforms. So I know that in the free tier, first of all, it's like a forever free for real tier. There's no skip limits. Yes, I want to learn more about the rationale behind that.
We are very fortunate because we are open platform. We work really well with our major labels and our ecosystem partners and our licensing content partners, right? So because of that, we have negotiated a way for us to like have that a very amazing free tier. And, there were times where we thought about it, like, are we giving out a lot for free, right? Than less. What I have noticed that for the platform, if you go back to like the first principle, which is our platform is for creators, to be honest, right? Like creators making new music, Billie Eilish testing her waters, Post Malone dropping his first song, right? Even Mumford & Sons have dropped their new music, experimental music. So in that case, I think we need fans, we need art, we need listeners, right? And why should we then force listeners to like pay for a subscription and then lose them, right? So we have a right, almost right balance between like how the free tier looks like, how the paid tier looks like. And this is not like magic that happened overnight. It's over a period of negotiation with everyone. And what we notice is that the fans who want to stick around and consider SoundCloud as their primary source of music consumption, they do move over and they subscribe. So we don't have as big a subscriber base as Spotify, but we have a subscriber base who are very, very engaged, more engaged than Spotify.
Yeah, so what are some of those success metrics, those leading indicators that tell you that you have a really high engaged audience?
Right. So the way we look at engagement is we look at engagement on multiple sides, because although we call ourselves a creator company, right? Yet we need the fans, because otherwise we'll just become a regular like tooling company, right? So we have a network. So for us, in that case, we have to balance both sides. So we have to see if the creators are engaged or not, meaning that if somebody writes a comment on your track, we nudge the creator and say, hey, comment back, right? Reply back. So one metric we look at is how engaged the creators are, meaning that are they active on the platform, or they're just build their profile and just sending their music and not doing much, right? Second, we look at is listener activation. So listener activation is important because, as I said, right, without listener, there's no SoundCloud. So how listeners are performing in the first couple of days when they sign in. The reason this metric is important now, and as you would probably know, that all metrics don't remain the same, right? As the company grows, company changes its state, or new product feature that you figure out, metrics change. So right now it's important because we have been investing a lot of energy and time in making the first 3 days absolutely awesome. We are not as polished as Spotify because we are now getting to that point where we are coming up with new ways of activating a listener. So, and the third metric, which is leading indicator for subscription, the subscription we really, really care about is a creator subscription, because that's how we are. Uploads is our main metric. The number of uploads they're uploading, number of tracks they're uploading, and number of tracks that are getting heard, meaning that has plays more than 100 plays in the first 7 days of upload. That's what we're looking at.
I like how you're thinking about it in terms of a marketplace. I like there's specific leading indicators for the creators versus the leading indicators for the fans,
correct,
as you described. So I'm going to focus on one and then I'll go to the other. So as you think about the fan, I was just thinking about Facebook and how they talk about one of their activation metrics or their aha moments was to get to 5 friends within a week. That meant that the user was engaged enough then to continue using the product more. We had the VP of product from SoulCycle on the podcast, and he said that his aha metric was 5 rides within the first month. Do you have any specific aha moment to consider that a fan is engaged?
Yeah, we do. So without divulging too much, the composite metric of a number of listens in the first 7 days and number of collections. Collection meaning you save, because we see a lot of artists, a lot of fans goes back to their library, listen to music. It's one of their second most largest source of listening. And the third one is engagement with artists. So if one of the 3 sticks around, then this fan becomes a part of like engaging fan like cohort. And then
correct. So you are hedging. Like basically you have 3 different paths for a user to be considered engaged.
Correct. And then after that, what we look is we monitor like how this cohort moved from, disengagement that you just joined right now, right, to engaged, and then how they fall back into like, some other buckets, right? So, and we see this for every cohort, meaning that every time, every week a new cohort joins, we look at the retention curve that way.
That's smart, because I can imagine not all the fans want to actively engage with their artist. I mean, that would be awesome, but I can imagine there are more passive users that are still engaged. They just want to consume the content.
Exactly. That's why such a composite metric helps, because if one of them is not there, the others, we can look at weights. And again, I would tell you, like, if we are to focus on engagement more today, then we'd put more weight on the engagement part of that metric.
Is there any counter metric as you think about, okay, we want to feed certain users with content that they like? is that penalizing other metrics in terms of discovery or other things that you're trying to push?
Yeah, this is actually a good question for me to share about Get Heard as an example, right? So when we first joined, like, we know why artists come here. They have been asking, like, for last 17 years that they want to be heard, right? Let's do it. So the project was actually simple. It's not very complicated. It's basically when you upload something and your track is eligible. So we look at eligible using AI, meaning your loudness levels are okay, no bad words, no harmful content. You know what I'm talking about. So then we put that into a queue. So this queue, for example, let's say you are making rap. So after, let's say, Lil Wayne's song, and a fan is listening, and there's no other song queued, your rap would feature right after that, right? And again, this is also like using AI. We are not going to put randomly your music to someone who may not like you, right? May not like your music. Your music should be very close to Lil Wayne's song, right? So we have tested that quite some time. For 6 months or so, we have quietly tested that. And we found out that it's working. Like a lot of artists, like, uploading their second one. So we started paywalling that right now. So then what happened was, as we started increasing the pool of artists more, because you build 0 to 1 product, right? You build small and then you slowly roll it out, right? We saw that, skip rates, some of the skip rates are increasing. You can imagine, right? What if I put some, I don't know, like some unknown person's music, and the music is not really great after Lil Wayne? You can feel the contrast, right? And suddenly like, this is skip this song. So then we started like putting more, refining the AI algorithm more and more and more to the point where the skip rates were low. So that's one of the examples of trade-off.
That's a great segue into the leading indicators for creators. You just reminded me of how TikTok actually mastered this algorithm balance between content that users want while introducing new content that the machine thinks that the user will also want, even though they haven't requested it. And that actually benefited the content creators by far, much more than what content creators were getting on other platforms such as Instagram, because we got really focused on highlighting content, in the independent content people that maybe weren't that big yet. So now as we talk about the content, in your case, the artist, what are some of those specific leading indicators for them?
You mean their leading indicators for their music to be successful?
Correct.
So a couple of leading indicators are, one is that without skipping, so they get this report right after that. So they know that. So right after like uploading, and as people are listening to it, if they're seeing less skip rates, so that's one leading indicator. So second is if you send another, like upload another music, another track, and they see this, there's an overlap of the fans from the previous cohort to this cohort. So they have to keep a tab on that. So some of the work that the artist needs to do, right? Because that gives like, your commitment to that whole process. So those are two things. One is like less skips. Number two is like repeat listeners. So those are leading indicators for them that if they are continuing to, and then of course, like, the third one could be like, getting a DM from another artist saying that, hey, can I collab with you? But for most artists, these are top two leading indicators.
So now I'm thinking about your challenge as the SVP of Product and Growth to make sure everybody wins here. You mentioned that you made the company profitable for the first time in 16 years.
Right.
That's a huge win. You turned on monetization in the right way. Right. But I can imagine you also did it the right way for the artists so they can benefit from the overall growth. So what are some of those levers that you are putting here to make sure that both artists and your own company are growing together?
Yeah. So one of the things we learned, and we're lucky to have that we did not have to do a huge trade-offs, is that people who listen to like top 100, they'll always skip and they'll listen. They'll listen to their own thing, right? And then people who really want to discover music, they'll go, above and beyond to find, we call them crate diggers. They find like the music that they really like, that's vibing, and then their friends will like it. So we have more of the second group, not a lot of the first group. A lot of the first group will be in Spotify and other places, right? So that way we are lucky. So we did not have to do a lot of trade-offs. Like we had less skips. My hunch says that it's because of that reason, like why we had less skips. But let's assume that for the sake of like as an exercise right now, live exercise, if I have to do it with a lot of hard trade-offs, a thing like this is going to change a lot, right? It's going to affect the whole ecosystem. So how would I do that? I would put think about it as like a plus and minuses. Let's say minus is skip rates. Skip rates, let's call it like, give skip rates a value. Let's say -5, right? But get heard is +10 for creators. Skip rate is -5 for fans, right? So I would ask a product manager, quantify that -5, why you came to that -5, why is it not -20? They will go and figure out that, well, skipping 1 or 2 songs is not a big deal because you'll notice that when they skip 1 or 2 songs, they still continue to be subscribing with us. So maybe Ashok, skipping is not a trade-off at all, right? So that we're not creating a bad experience, so that's okay. So this is the kind of rigor I want to develop as we scale. And I'm not saying that we are out of it, but now we are at a point where we are raising money, so we want to scale. And when we scale, multiple projects will happen at the same time. We are not 0 to 1 anymore. That's when I'll bring the product management, mathy Ashok in me, the one that's kind of made companies like Lyft, Facebook go up.
And that's what a lot of streaming platforms are trying to figure out now as they introduce this ad-supported plan. What's the right amount of ads that someone can tolerate in exchange for having a free product? At what point it makes sense for that user to pull the trigger and upgrade? So you also have a paid tier. What are some of those elements that you play with in order to not only monetize the free users through that free tiers, which I suppose come with ads, and then the paid user that I assume is coming without ads?
Yeah, so for now, because of the business environment, and we still continue to be, we still want to continue to be profitable. We are emphasizing more on the ad tier right now to get more revenue out of the current free tier, which is a really great tier. But we also have an open mind. When we are scaling, we would like to experiment. And the kind of experiment I want to do is, first of all, some of the things are already happening around the world. It's not a secret. Something called silent trials. Silent trials are basically when you are a free tier member, give your free tier member some of the premium benefits without telling them it's premium. Let them enjoy that organically, right? It's not a trial without a card, because that you tell them it's a trial, right? And then after the end of that period, you can tell them that, hey, we introduced this, a few features for free, but these are premium features. Would you like to buy? So things like that I want to try. I want to also try a little bit of, like, as you said, experimentation on giving some, maybe introduce what Spotify did, which is shuffle instead of just, play what you want, right? Maybe I'll try to cut down on anonymous listening right now. So there's a lot to do going forward, and we're very excited about that. But as you said, coming back to your point about ads tier, subscription tier, our main goal is to increase the subscription tier. One of the things that I would like to say here is, if for any trade-off, always ask for what is the main goal. You cannot have 5 goals. Like increase creator subs by X%, increase fan subs by Y%, increase ad money by Z%. No. What's the primary goal?
Totally. The same way, it's almost impossible to find a solution that comes without trade-offs.
Correct. Exactly.
You're always stopping something.
And the teams will do their due diligence. They'll find out, how the trade-off works. But as an executive, if I'm not firm about hey, I'm willing to make this trade-off, and I'm not putting this decision on you, I think that's how companies need to be nimble.
So one of the challenges that I've seen in large companies, as there are more and more opportunities to grow, is how do you actually make those decisions? You are the SVP of product and growth, operating within a marketplace at a global scale. So how do you structure the team to ensure effective decision making?
It's funny that you asked me that we are a large company. Actually, we are not. We were a large company at one point, but in 2020, or after private equity took over, we became a very small company. There's a joke in the company. We are the oldest startup, people know. So yeah, till now, to be honest, a lot of our work was in 3 camps. One is tech debt. We had a lot of tech debt in SoundCloud. You can see from the product. Second is, changing the whole value prop of creator, moving towards the creator direction. Third is basically hygiene. Hygiene means that search should work, right? Things like that. So it was very clear, like when you just describe these three buckets work on, like how to structure the company. Like there will be teams who is focusing on creator, larger team, right? A smaller, very focused team given a mandate to increase, listener activation, and they're doing only listener specific work, but very small team on that. Huge number of engineers led by principal engineers, not led by product people, but led by the CTO, fixing all the tech debt, moving away from monoliths to GraphQL and all that stuff. Going forward, though, things will be and of course, because of that, I manage not just product, also also growth, right? And I was the person who would be negotiating between both the sides, hey, core product, you have to do this, growth, you have to do this, right? But I think going forward, we will have an organization where I don't want to create a creator and a fan separate team. I want to create teams based on missions. Mission could be I'm just spitballing right now, but make the best goddamn upload experience, right? So upload experience could be one team. Distribution could be another team, which means that, this is another area where creators find it really hard to distribute their music to other platforms. And SoundCloud does that too today. So based on missions, I'll organize my team. I'll still want to keep the team smaller because although we are going to get more money, multiple parallel projects, I have noticed that as teams become very, very independent, they also lose alignment and focus. So I don't want to have a bunch of people who would be doing something that there's no observability around that. So yeah, pretty much that's how we want to scale.
So you talk about the missions. Seems like kind of the pod concept of small group of people, like Amazon would call the 2-pizza team.
Exactly.
Go out there, figure something out. Let's say you accomplish that mission, then what?
So that's a great question. Some of the missions continue. For example, without an upload, without a really great upload experience, the product is not there, right? And you might say, Ashok, I argue against that because you may take 3 years or so to build a very good upload experience. I would argue back saying that, well, you are thinking about uploading only music right now. There could be other things to upload too, without giving away the 5-year strategy, right? So there's a lot to do that. And then there will be teams, you're right, who will be focusing on one thing and their job is over because they have fulfilled. Not that they will go away elsewhere. There's so many things that we need to do. My biggest, when I was growing in Headspace, my biggest goal was to make myself irrelevant in that team so that I can move over and do something else because the team was growing. And I don't see SoundCloud getting to the point of Facebook or Instagram right away because music tech is very, very complicated. We'll still have to have a lot of slow burn getting to that level of scale.
So where does the growth team fit into the picture?
Very good question. So again, reminder, we were doing very, very basic things starting 2022, right? That time. So initially the growth team was working on paywalls. We did not have paywalls, right? You can think about that. So if any growth PM is listening to this, just close your ears for now. But at this point today, fast forward after 3 years, the growth team is dictating things like, for example, this is a very interesting example. There's a feature called replace file. So an artist upload their music and they replace their file with the same link, but the content is different. And they keep doing that pretty frequently. So the growth team actually figured out this pattern and they reached out to some of the artists, why do you do that? And the artists explain why actually they do that. They get feedback from people. They put a new version. They actually share this link with producers and producers give feedback after every time they upload their content. Why would you want to send your piece of music through, texting, right? And so it's oh, this is a great feature. And also this is a premium feature. And we did not double click on that at all. So we introduced that feature on mobile. And when we introduced that feature on mobile, and because mobile app is the forefront of SoundCloud, right? Everyone, when they say SoundCloud, they open their app, right? Nobody goes to, people go to SoundCloud.com, right? So our creator subscription increased manifold because of that discovery, right? So think about it, growth team looking at data, a very small observation led to in the same vein, they now recommended that creator products should be in right now. The core features or core flows should be on the mobile. Just like, Airbnb has a host mode, right? Or, Twitch has a creator mode. We need to have creator features. And who is doing that work right now? The growth team is doing that work, not the core team. The core team already discovered the features.
So funny how many of these growth experiments come from users hacking your own product.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. And the other thing also that, you can also interview users to find out what they're thinking, but it doesn't harm if you upload music yourself too, and if you go through that journey yourself.
So as you think about the pod composition for the different missions, like what are the main roles involved?
So at a minimum, a pod should have the trifecta, right, which is product design and engineering. With one of them missing, it's not a pod anymore, right? Again, you'll have dependencies on others, like things like that. So I don't want to create a bunch of these independent pods without like having the trifecta. So the core product, like upload experiences, distribution experiences, and the third one is basically around, fan monetization. So these three, so get heard, get paid. Get heard, get fans, get paid, right? So we'll have around these three missions. And then, of course, there'll be a growth team, which is horizontal. And we are not that big right now to break the growth team down into like activation, like retention, right? So we have one single team looking at all that. We have payments working very closely with growth because growth is the biggest customer of payments, right? And so that's how we are organizing things for now.
So it seems like a hybrid structure.
Correct.
With the specific pods focused on missions, while a cross-functional team, including growth, payments, and others, maintaining the infrastructure.
Correct.
And then how do you actually define what's next and ensure that there is a certain sense of direction?
Right. Oh, thank you for asking this. That's one of probably we'll spend a whole hour on that. But I think that doesn't start with only me, right? The latest planning discussion that we had, actually last week we were in New York, it was the first time it was truly bottoms up. So what we did as a group of execs, we laid down the outcomes or the goals, right? Creator subscriptions needs to go up, XYZ needs to go up, right? And this is rank ordered, right? We're not super specific like, this is like, give some weights to this, 60%, that 40%. We want to see what the teams come up with. They come up with a bunch of ideas on like, how to move the needle. They showed the math, the data, and it was really, very, really beautiful to see that. I want to do that more. So lay the right context, right? Not just the goals, but also explain the goals, why it's a goal, what we're hearing from outside, from investors, what we're hearing, what are we seeing from data, as you all have shared. The second thing is align. Before even all this happens, I think there was a lot of background work exec needs to do. One is basically aligning the peers and the C-suite. So if that doesn't work out, a lot of this hard work, you can see like won't materialize, and that will create a demotivation. So an outside amount of time I spent end of December or so, spending time with the CEO, speaking about what's important, what's not important. And so if there is a moment for giving a tip right now, one of the tip would be for execs to, of course, be very, very close to the teams and what they're doing, why they're doing, what are the bottlenecks, right? But also outside the amount of time spending with peers. A lot of time execs focus on people below them and get the maximum work out of them, but they don't realize that that work could be actually a higher maxima if you are friends with the other people, like head of engineering, data, like things like that.
I think that's a counterintuitive point around empowering teams. And of course, that sounds great. And why not empowering people to pick their missions? But at the end of the day, you need an executive that is creating those guardrails, right? So we all understand like what's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish while also giving you enough freedom to define specific solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this wouldn't be a great interview if we don't talk about AI. And I know you've done some juicy things with it. So love to learn specifically from the customer facing standpoint. Like what are some of those unique use cases where you are seeing enough traction?
I would not repeat the same thing that most people say, like, customer support bot, which we all have. SoundCloud is unique that way because we have been using AI for quite some time, as you can see, recommendation algorithms and all that stuff, right? Even like, figuring out whether this track is eligible for us to push it to a queue, right? But one of the things we noticed, which came from Gen AI, which is the new frontier, is that if you give the ability to create music in the hands of non-creators, people who don't have the right skill set to play the piano, like mix tracks together, even DJing, right, layering on tracks on top of each other, a lot of magic can happen. So we ran some experiments. There's a couple of we have worked with a couple of vendors and partners who are trained on ethical data. So one of the things that we posted in SoundCloud is that SoundCloud stands for ethical use of AI. So it will be damned if we use an AI system that is trained on hard work of other people and we don't pay them, right? So first of all, selection of partners are very important to start with, rather than building on our own to begin with. Then we ran some experiments. So the experiments came up in form of contests. Who doesn't like contests, right? So Tinashe, I don't know if you know Tinashe, she's like a rap, she in the rap, R&B and rap. So we worked with Tinashe. So Tinashe's song, Nasty Girl, it's a very famous song in TikTok. So we asked her to give her stems. Stems are basically parts of her song, break down by like vocals, instrumentals, things like that. And asked her to tell her fans, like, why don't you mix this track and I'll pick the top one. That one went out really well. We got close to 1,400 submissions, including I did two. I did one for techno, the other one on drum and bass, which my favorite genres. And it was really well received. Then we did more on that, like Steve Aoki and a lot of DJs are coming up. So now it has come to this point, and the product market fit signals of that, right? If a creator says that, I really want that, or if you take that away, I'll leave your platform, right? So it is to that point where we understood now that creators are really excited to get their fans excited about their music. And how? Just give them out for remix. So your fans will remix, you select the best one and put it in your profile. So that's something would not have been possible if Gen AI wasn't here. So yeah, that's one takeaway was that. But there we are using Gen AI for other things too.
That's so cool. And in a way, I think social media figured this out with the use of Reels, right? TikTok, Instagram allows users to use content, music from creators. I know you have a hot take, and I think this could be a good way. Maybe, I don't know, maybe leads us to another hour-long conversation. You mentioned that it is good to have, in some cases, good to have create friction for the user when they are using a product.
Yeah. This one was an interesting one. So, growth will teach you, or a lot of product content will teach you that remove friction, and which is true. You have to remove all friction for someone to get into the zone of a core action, right? Like, sign up, sign in, right? No questions asked, no arguments. But there are certain things, especially where you are asking someone to change their habit, right? So it's almost like a coach. A coach, when you ask someone to change their habit, you have to make the person commit to it, right? You have to commit to this process, Ashok, like otherwise you'll not lose weight. So we wanted to test that, it's called commitment consistency bias. Like if you commit to something, you are consistent with that, right? As we started thinking about, we are coaching our artist. So instead of putting the eligible track, which we did, we took the eligible track and put that in that queue. Remember where, after Little Wayne, they play the music. We saw a lot of creators are getting success, and it was so counterintuitive. Like our CEO asked us, like, are you guys kidding me, right, when you're doing this? And said no to it, which is basically what we did was we put a small little toggle. Now, this is a friction. So we'll not automatically put your music in the queue, even though it's eligible. We want you to turn it on. So initially our numbers were low, the numbers of tracks that got into the queue. But what we learned is that in that experiment, the trade-off was low number of people got their music in the queue, but those who got their music in the queue became very much consistent in checking their stats, in reaching out to fans, replying to their comments. So much so that after a point, we ran that experiment for like 4 weeks or so, or more than that actually. We realized that this is actually much better than the previous version, which is free for all. So we just added that friction now very explicitly, that you have to click on that toggle. Because if you click on the toggle, you'll remember, I press the submit button.
I love that. It reminds me of how Airbnb goes about helping hosts post their homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the one hand, you want to make it as frictionless as possible. On the other hand, you want to ensure certain commitment and quality. So
Correct.
it can't just be a free-for-all.
Correct. Exactly. And as you said, right, this is a very nuanced thing. It may not work everywhere, but in case of like, where, creation, things are hard. So you need to like remind the artist that, hey, you need to do a little bit of work.
Ashok, it's been great to put you to work here again. I don't know what the next opportunity will be, but I know you will say yes. Thank you so much for your time again.
Thank you so much, Carlos. It was fun for me. I hope it was for you too.